Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, now that the first battle in the great GOP rebellion of 2023 is complete, what the hell was it actually all about? What did the rebels want? What did they win? What will it mean for all of us? After all, at times during the fight, it was actually a little hard to discern exactly what the asks were, what principles were really at stake, especially since the 20 holdouts weren't a united front, but rather a collection of different ambitions and grievances. This confusion was exacerbated by the fact that the two sides were both led by sort of pseudo-Trumpian figures. Kevin McCarthy was directly endorsed by Trump, of course, and had as one of his top allies Marjorie Taylor Greene, a woman who has not found a Trump delusion she would not embrace. And the 20 rebels were led by Matt Gaetz, a pugilist whose natural gifts as a genuine asshole have made him a natural for the Trumpian political aesthetic. The media largely treated this fight as if it was something totally new, totally different. And to be sure, we haven't had a speaker fight this lengthy in 100 years. But as the dust settles on this new GOP House majority, it seems to me most of the lines of this fight weren't actually ones set down by Trump in 2016, but by the Tea Party back in 2010 and by the Koch radical libertarian wing and Barry Goldwater before that. Yeah, there are a few Trump-era twists that are new and different, and frankly, these are the only pieces which are interesting and not terrible. The potential defense spending cuts, the deep state investigation, which Thagor is digging into in his monologue. But the overwhelming bulk of the concessions are actually antithetical to Trump's 2016 break from GOP economic orthodoxy. Remember, back then he was the guy who trashed the neoliberal consensus of trade deals and deficit hawks and would-be Social Security cuts. But now with this fight, we're officially back to 2010 with all its hostage-taking over spending cuts and demands to slash social spending, including potentially Social Security and Medicare. There's nothing new about these politics, and they sure as hell are not populist. But this is predictably exactly what you get when you have a party that under Trump embraced vibes and aesthetics more than actual political content. Because there are a million DC orcs and billions of dollars ready to fill your empty vessel with the anti-tax, pro-plutocrat, starve the poor's ideology that has been haunting this town for decades now. Let me be a little bit specific here about these concessions, at least what we know of them and what they ultimately will mean. Remember, since Democrats hold the Senate and the White House, the most critical action in the session is going to be on items where the House and the Senate must actually act together in order to keep the basics of government operating. So basically, the whole game here is the debt ceiling and the government budgeting process. If the debt ceiling doesn't get lifted, economic chaos could ensue. If the government doesn't get funded, it shuts down, with huge ramifications for basic societal functioning. The concessions given by McCarthy make it much more likely that ordinary Americans will suffer because of radical anti-government ideologues. In fact, many of the 20 who are opposing McCarthy were explicit that their core demand was a pledge that McCarthy would use the debt ceiling fight to hold the entire nation hostage in the name of fiscal austerity. South Carolina Republican Ralph Norman said that he would never vote for McCarthy until he was willing to shut the government down rather than raise the debt ceiling. He described it as a non-negotiable item. A letter that was sent by 7 of the holdouts last month, they demanded that a debt ceiling showdown occur and that they balance the budget in 10 years. Even if they actually follow through on a defense budget cut, the bulk of the spending cuts are going to come from vital and popular programs, things like Medicare and Social Security, that make up significant chunks of the federal budget. This dramatically unpopular agenda appears to be exactly what the radicals have ultimately won. McCarthy agreed to change the process for passing spending bills in a way that empowers the most anti-government radicals. He also pledged to send the country into economic crisis rather than lift the debt ceiling with no spending cuts. For the rebels, going to war with DC elites might be popular, but the actual provisions that they were warring over are decidedly not. Republicans know this, by the way. When Rick Scott floated a similar program as head of the NRSC, Republicans who actually wanted to win elections, like Mitch McConnell, trashed him for it, wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Now they're implementing exactly the unpopular agenda that they tried desperately to run away from back then. Additional reported concessions have to do with power. Any single caucus member can now call essentially a vote of no confidence on McCarthy. The powerful Rules Committee, which effectively governs how legislating occurs, that's going to be dominated by hard-right Freedom Caucus members. On their own, these provisions aren't really good or bad, since it all depends on whether that new power is going to be used for good or ill. But again, this group has made it clear what they want to do with that power, and it's hostage-taking, spending cuts, which will hurt the working class, and maintaining criminally low tax rates on the rich. In fact, one reported concession requires a 3/5 vote in order to raise tax rates. I can assure you, this provision does not have you, average taxpayer, in mind, but rather the goodies and giveaways that the ultra-rich wish to benefit from in perpetuity. Listen, Trump the man and the movement lives on. He may well once again be the GOP standard bearer, but nearly all of the economic content of Trumpism was abandoned long ago, leaving literally anyone the ability to claim the mantle of supposed populism, even as they gnash their teeth in favor of a raft of plutocrat-friendly policy priorities. Fighting the powers that be feels like a populist revolt when given a 30-second gloss on cable news. I too enjoyed watching Kevin McCarthy's repeated humiliation over and over again. But what was won is ultimately a more hardline entrenchment of capital and the same old policies that create socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for everyone else. And Sagar, the way that the Republican Party has really been able to... Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now. And Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.